Here we see what's billed as the original screen layout. This is obtainable through the settings, recall screen layout, if at any time you need to get back to this point, and it shows a variety of tools which enable you to draw pretty much anything. Having said that, we can customize CADI to make it very much more personal, giving us access to many more tools. Before we start to customize our layout, let's take a look at the standard installation. Now, CADI is a Windows application, so there are certain features which should be more than familiar to anybody who's used Windows applications before. So at the top of the screen we see the blue bar with the name of the application, which in this case is CADI 12 Professional, and we see the name of our document, in this case a drawing, which is CADI 1, which is also shown here. And in fact, as we open up more drawings, create new documents, then they take a string along there and we can just toggle between them, cutting and pasting as we go. Right, underneath that we see File, and we'll see that here we can access all the normal things like save, save as, and so on, along with a whole host of other tools. Coming through Edit, where we've got Cut, Copy and Paste, through to things like Help at the end, and we'll see there, Help has got a shortcut of F1. Okay, underneath that we start with the toolbars. And what we'll see here is that we can grab these toolbars, we can move them around, we can dock them on anywhere we want on our screen. That's at the top, at the base, and they all take their place there. But we'll put this particular one back there. Other toolbars, here we have layer. So when we're working with CADI, we can determine what layer we want things to be drawn on. Pick on a layer and that gets entered into the box. Here we have different pen choices, so we can define things by colour on the screen and get those to plot in terms of thickness when we print out to our sheets. Here we have different line styles, so continuous, dashed and so on, and that extends right down to things like insulation and gas and so on. Right, coming along now, let's just pick up the lines toolbar. As we see, we bring it in there, it says lines, which actually toolbar it is, and as we pick on the tool in question, you'll notice on the left here on the CADI commands, the same tool that's selected here will actually highlight so that we can always see exactly what we're using in CADI. At the bottom on the command line we're given the information as to what we're expected to do, so indicate line start, pick a point here, select just left clicking, and we'll pick our points on the screen. Okay, so that's defining our line. Now as we right click we have what's called the context sensitive menu, and if we option end then that will effectively finish off the command, and we see down here option end has been selected. Now with toolbars we don't always need the tools all of the while, and if we click over the top with a right click on the mouse, we see that we can remove the tick from there and the toolbar in question will disappear. Click over the grey at the top, click on lines again, and it reappears where we last dropped it. And again, right click, select that, and there it goes. With our slightly atypical space, although I suppose you could use this on things like laptops and notebook computers, we might want to maximize the space that we have available for drawing. And we see that we can grab things like the command line and just bring it down to give us more drawing area. We can still toggle through line by line, going through the prompts that we've had on the command line, just using the arrow keys there. And in fact, to maximize our drawing area still further, you'll see that we can pinch the menus just across to the left there, so I'll just make them a little bit smaller, and you see it goes to dot 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 when we've finished. So I'll just pull that in there too, just making it optimum size. And in fact, a further little tip here, when we right click over our CADI tools here, we can say we want things like text only, we can right click and say picture only, or we can go for the combination text and picture. An ideal start in this case for showing you how to get to grips with Caddy. You'll see we have a box here on our screen. This is our drawing area, border edges. Now we can define that border area as a size, and the way we do that is the little black tool up here, which you can also find under settings. Now we come down to model space, workspace, environment, and this allows us to choose the colour of the background. For those who might want to use a different colour, we can select our basic units, we can select grids, and if we're wanting to print from the model space, that's where we would define our printer. Now as we come up to the border size, you'll see that we can define exactly what we want as far as a starting outline. So if we select an A1 sheet at 150, that will effectively give us here a drawing area that would relate to an A1 sheet when we print out at 150. Down the left hand side we have our main application menu. So we pick on lines, that gives us all the tools for drawing lines. Click on curves, it gives us the tools for drawing curves, and so on and so forth, right down through things like dimensions and hatching. And in fact, because of our reduced size, we have an option to scroll through to get to the remaining tools at the bottom of the list. When we select our tools from here, it automatically changes the Caddy commands from which we can select. So things like indicate rectangle by corners, and there we are. Right click, option end, again that finishes the tools off. At the very bottom of the screen you'll see we have a series of indicators, things like materials, and if we go to perspective, and you'll see when we change to perspective we get a different representation there. So I'll go back to axonometric and we'll choose our 2D wireframe. We have the ability to choose the render mode. We have the ability to choose whether we want to represent thicknesses on the screen. 2D drawing, 3D drawing, we can disable the 3D orbit too. We can work in absolute or relative mode, and we can also say how we want the figures to update on the screen here, whether we want coordinates or whether we want distance and angle, for instance. Over at the right we have degrees or radians. We can see whether we're displaying all the layers in the scope, and we can say whether we're selecting the automatic unmark, which is either manual or auto. Okay, that gives us our basic layout. So what other tools do we have with Caddy? Well, we'll see over here on the left that we have the word Caddy written. Now this tells us the application that we're in, and if we right click over that application banner, we have an option for loading further applications. So we'll load application, and we can see that we can load 3D tools along with a whole host of other discipline specific tools that allow us to maximize our working efficiency with Caddy. In this instance we're going to choose the Arch UK. OK that, and instantly we see we've got some more tools available to us. Click on the Arch tools and we have walls where we can set up our cavity walls, solid walls, stud walls, and so on. Stud walls down here. We can select artistic tools where we might want to modify our drawing to reflect a hand-drawn drawing style. We have electrical tools where we can apply electrical symbols to our drawings and schedule them too. Now, nestling down at the bottom we have our main Caddy tools again. Select that and that takes us back to our main menu of tools, and we can select between them. Having said that, it's much easier to create a toolbar to get access to the tools we want without having to go through too many clicks. So right click over our grey area here and we'll go to Customize. This shows us the toolbars here is shown ticked that are active at the moment, with other ones that we can turn on. Now we're going to create a new toolbar and we're going to call it Caddy 1. OK that, and we see our toolbar appear and we can place that wherever we like on the screen. To populate the toolbar we need to select some commands, and you'll see they're all categorized by virtue of their subject heading. So we've got lines, curves, just as we have on the main menus over on the left. Now the tools I want to use here are the Arch UK tools, and it's simply a case of dragging and dropping into the toolbar itself. Incidentally, if there's a tool that you don't need anymore, you can just drag and drop it over your working area and it will disappear from the toolbar. So just place that one back in there, and you can see it gives us the name of the toolbar appearing there as the toolbar gets longer, and we can place that at the top of our screen, and we can close our toolbar. This means now that when we go to lines or curves, any of the CADI applications, the instant we want to make use of the tools within the specialist application, click on the tools there, they all appear without having to click into the Arch UK and then the particular tool collection set. Now we might like to save this layout so that we don't have to do this again every time we get into CADI. In fact, CADI will save the default these as the default settings and load it every time we start up CADI afresh. But there may be a time when we alter it and want to change between menus. So we'll go to Settings, go to Screen Layout, and here we see Save Screen Layout. You'll notice we can also export screen layouts and import them, making your CADI layout transportable across systems. So we'll save the screen layout and we'll give it a name, and we'll call it CADI 1. Okay, I've already got one called CADI 1. If you do have one called CADI 1 or any other name, you'll get a prompt to overwrite it, which I've now done. So that's our basic layout. And just before we leave customizing CADI, let's just look once more at the customize. So we'll right click over the grey area, customize, and we'll see that we can customize in addition the keyboard. So when we go to the keyboard, we have the category of tools that we want to customize. So we'll go down the list here, and in this case I'm going to choose the snap tools. Option end is the particular tool that I want to assign to a key on the keyboard here, and you'll see at the moment it's assigned to the letter E. If I wanted to remove that and replace it with something else, I could remove it, literally select the new shortcut key box, press on the letter that I want, assign it, then that will effectively give me that tool on depression of that keystroke. We can close that now, and that will be saved for use within CADI. And in fact, if we go to lines, just to demonstrate this, I'll pick on draw. If I start drawing my lines, if I right click, option end finishes the tool, select the tool again, now just press on the letter E on the keyboard and option end is selected again. Incidentally, the spacebar along with other tools are already defined within CADI, definitions which you can add to, but the spacebar will give you the last tool once again. So it just starts, in this case, the drawing process off. The thing we're going to touch on with our screen layout tutorial is the idea of model space and the sheets. So down at the bottom of our drawing area we'll see we've got the word model, and then if we look at sheets, these are our representations of the sheets that we're going to plot out on. You'll see that sheet 1 is set to A1, sheet 2 is set to A2, indicated at the top of the screen there. So these are the sheets of paper that we will print out on. Going back to our model, if we come down in the main CADI groups of tools here to sheets, we won't deal with all of these in any depth here, but just to say that you can create a view, a chosen view of your model. So we'll pick an area such as that, click onto our sheet, and then create a view of this at a chosen scale, so 1 to 50, and that will give us a representation of that on our sheet. If we create that again, we could have it at a different scale and place it down wherever we like. If we choose the viewports, we can make them larger, we can make them smaller, we can move them around, we can place the same views or different views on different sheets. But just to recap, on the idea of the model and how that relates to the sheets. If we go and add something further to the drawing, so we go back to something as simple as lines, pick on draw, we'll choose a different pen, and then just draw a few lines on our model. We'll click on sheet and we'll see that those lines are reflected in the different views. So there's our model space, and we have now associated with it various views that we can print out. So just to recap, what we've seen in this tutorial is how we can take the standard CADI installation and customize it to our own ends. We can take the tools that we need and create new toolbars. So we created the toolbars for the architectural tools, we created shortcuts onto our keyboard as well, and we also optimize the drawing area so that we can make the very most of our CADI system and maximize our potential drawing with it.